Hi everybody, so it's Laura from Laura Cully Hypnotherapy. I've had a few people ask me about phobias recently, excuse me, and obviously being a little bit worried about coming for help with phobias because, who really wants to face their fears? It's a really difficult thing to do. But some of the examples, I've had a lady who has got a promotion at work and it required her having to fly, and she had a fear of flying. So obviously she had to overcome that because she really wanted the promotion, wanted to do well at work, but recognised that she was going to have to start getting on planes and flying around. Don't suppose she's doing much of that at the moment. And another a gentleman who worked on ladders. His job required him to climb ladders and had developed a phobia of heights and couldn't get past the third rung of the ladder. So again, had to come along and address that phobia and overcome it. So I just thought it might be worth just having a chat today about how I would help you deal with a phobia so that you can see that it's actually very gentle, very, very safe. And the main thing actually is you staying very relaxed. So it's actually, most people describe it as quite a nice experience. It's not frightening at all. So what is a phobia? It's really an irrational fear. There are certain fears that we're all born with. So we're all born with the fear of falling. So we all have a little bit of a fear of heights. And that's natural. It's there to protect us. Our brains are very, very clever. And the whole point of this is that your brain is trying to protect you. It's trying to keep you alive. So it doesn't want you leaping off tall buildings or mountains. So, some of these things are very, very natural. Obviously, it becomes a problem if, like this gentleman, that you were worried about climbing a ladder and you needed to. So, it just depends on the fear and how far it's gone and how much it's affecting your life and how rational it is, because, climbing to the fifth rung of a ladder wasn't life-threatening, something you needed to do. The other fear we have is of loud noises. And again, if we hear a loud noise, it's usually a warning. So, our brains are doing what they're designed to do, and they're protecting us. But all other phobias and fears are learned. Or most other fears and phobias are learned. So they could be learned through a particular event that you go through, something frightening happening, and something, either an object or a particular situation becomes attached to that fear. It could be that you've learned it from a parent. If you have a parent who's really frightened of spiders and they scream, freak out every time a spider comes into a room, you're going to pick that up because you're learning from that person. And in your mind, it's going to think, wow, that must be something really terrifying. I need to avoid it too. But there's always a reason for a phobia. It's just your mind protecting you, doing what it was designed to do. Fear of public speaking is one that I deal with quite a lot. And when we think about that one, again, that really holds people back, especially in their careers. If they need to speak, even in front of a group of people in a meeting, but they're finding that really hard. Their mind goes blank, they stumble on their words. It's something that they really need to overcome. And it's not, they will say, oh, I'm really terrified of speaking in front of people, but it's not the fear of speaking in front of people. It's more a fear of what other people are thinking about you, and really it comes down to that fear of being rejected and being cast out, because years ago that would have been a really dangerous thing for us. I mean, nowadays you probably get by on your own, actually. If you didn't have any friends or family, you could pretty much survive, but that wouldn't have been the case a long time ago. And we still carry that around with us now. Our brains are wired in that way. So there are certain fears that people don't really understand. And a lot of people come to me and they say, I'm so embarrassed to tell you what I'm scared of. And please don't ever be embarrassed, because, as I say, it's your brain doing what it was designed to do. And there will be a reason that you've developed a phobia. So I've worked with people who've had a phobia of buttons. A lady had a phobia of tomato ketchup. People who've had phobias of all different kinds of foods or body parts. It can be absolutely anything. And you don't even need to necessarily remember how and why it started. You may just feel that it's always been there. If I just give you an example of how these things can start, the lady with the phobia of buttons, it went right back to the 1970s when she was a little girl and she was sexually abused by an uncle. And she started to remember this in hypnosis. that obviously she remembered the abuse, she knew all about that, she'd had counselling for it, and she was doing really well, but it was just this button thing that was very confusing for her. And what it was, she remembered that whenever the abuse took place, it was always on this same sofa in her uncle's house. And the sofa was one of those old 1970s leather sofas with the buttons, and she had always focused on the buttons. Now, in her mind, it had wired itself to be afraid of buttons, because that's just the way her mind had worked. It somehow decided that it was the buttons that were creating this fear. So, you know, it's just your mind doing its thing, and it's very, very clever, trying to protect you, but sometimes maybe just a bit over enthusiastic, or it's just got its wires crossed a little bit. So then our job in hypnosis is to rewire it so that we can remove that fear. So how do we do this? And this is the bit that obviously concerns people. So the main thing is that you stay completely relaxed. So what we would do to start with is make a hierarchy of fears. So we would start with something that perhaps just made you a little bit uncomfortable, but not anything that was really terrifying. And we would start with that. So we'd do all this before hypnosis. We'd have a really good chat and decide what we were going to do and how we were going to work through this together. And so then I would get you very, very relaxed, maybe take you somewhere where you feel very relaxed, whether for you that's a beach or a beautiful park somewhere, and just make sure that you're feeling nicely relaxed and that your body is relaxed. And then when you're in that lovely relaxed state, you would then start to imagine the thing that's really at the bottom of that hierarchy, so the thing that makes you a little bit uncomfortable, until it just didn't have any effect anymore, until you could think about it and just not get that feeling anymore. Now, some people, the phobia is quite simple, and we can do this in one session. There may only be just this one thing, and we go straight to that, and we remove it in one session. For other people, it can take a lot longer. Especially if it's something more complicated and something that you've had for years, you might just want to work through it step by step. So when you've done that, you might go away for the week and just practice. So it might just be looking at a picture of something, and you will realise that that feeling has just gone. It just goes like magic. It's amazing how it works. And then you would come back the next week, and we go to the next stage on your hierarchy, and we would just work our way up. And we do it in your own time, just taking however long, whatever feels right for you. But it honestly is a very, very relaxed experience. It's a very, very gentle experience. So please don't be afraid of facing that fear or that phobia, especially if it's something that's really affecting your life and getting in your way. If you would like to talk to me, then please do. I will put my details in the comments below. So come and make an appointment, come and have a chat, and we can just have a really good talk about it to start with and see how you feel about working with me. Okay, thank you very much for listening, and hopefully I will see some of you soon.